Meeting of
They're
the
on the floor right there.
Great. Meeting of the Finance Standing Committee is called to order at 9:34 a.m. on May 1st, 2025. Happy May Day, everybody. Hope folks go out and enjoy the May Day baskets if you're walking around downtown. Or as Alderman Arnett said, perhaps protesting. Gosh, you threw me right off, Alderman Arnett. Is there a roll call vote? Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
Alderman Huntley present. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the April 30th, 2025 meeting of the Finance?
Motion to approve minutes.
Mr. Chair, did we meet on the 30th?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It should be the 29th. Yeah.
Okay, so I will second the motion to approve the minutes from the April 29th meeting.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Well, Director Moran, thanks for being here with us. We know it's been a whirlwind couple of months, weeks for you, but happy to have you here and happy to have your presentation today. So you have the floor. Ms. Jackson,
Great.
if you want
Thank
to put the time on
you.
the clock.
Okay, so this is my first as the finance director for many to come. And I also have part of the budget team here. They are here for all of them, but they are part of our team. So you can utilize them as well if you have questions, especially on FY25, as I obviously wasn't here for all of it. So I just want to go through the presentation quickly and then obviously answer questions. High level, but okay, so let's start with FY25. Some trends and changes. We had some leadership changes, as obviously me. And we had contractual assistance for cashiering and AP to help with the workload there. A new budget analyst was added in 25. The planning to move to Shaw Street. Our expenditures of the ARPA funds are completed or obligated. The class and comp study, we were a part of that and implementing that as that's wrapping up. There were improvements to the budget process as they continue to make improvements. And then for FY24, as the audit is complete in 25, here's just some high level results. The growth of the general fund revenues, our revenues being on target, savings from various departments, and the auditors have issued clean opinions on the single audit and also the overall audit. However, expressing concerns about staffing and leadership turnover is something just to note. Looking forward to FY26, I want to say that my word for the year is going to be transition and growth. I'm trying to evaluate the department and develop a vision. So it's going to be tweaked and refined and revised, and looking forward to next year's budget and coming to you with, more of a vision and an overall idea of where the department can go and, where we're seeing it going. But just high level again. So obviously new leadership, myself, and then we are currently still hiring for the deputy position that has not been filled. And included in this budget, the proposed budget is an additional accounting position to help with payroll and AP. We continued with the move to Shaw Street. Hopefully that's going to be still as planned. Continuation of improvements to the processes, including digitization of records. Hopefully prior to the move, we don't want to take all of our paper with us. Paperless processes we're looking at trying to improve and change and make things more efficient and also reduce the risk of paper records. We are in the process with IT of implementing ACH transactions, sending out less paper checks. We do about 500 a month, which is not ideal. Also, NeoGov has been in the process, and we're trying to continue with that to help with the payroll process that is very cumbersome right now. and taking up our staff resources. Additional training has been added for staff, for new employees, but also we're looking to cross-train some of the employees we have, maybe shift some duties around, pull on some technical skill that may be underutilized with a few of our employees, but that will require training. We're looking to issue debt for vehicles and capital improvements for FY26. Here is a organizational chart of the team. In your books is a functional, operational chart, and then the staff summary, but this is kind of more of a breakdown of the lines of authority and where we're sitting right now. I do have included 2 orange positions that are things that I think, and based on feedback, could be helpful for our department. And then the one in yellow is the one that has been added in the proposed budget. Blue is what was added last year. Performance measures, I won't go through all of these. These were newly developed. As you can see for the FY25, there's a lot of things that are in process. Finance department's a little bit weird with our performance measures as we are kind of in a lag. You'll see some of the results also say FY24. So even though we're looking for 25 results, we have to go off of our audit. So that audit obviously has to be completed. So you're seeing a couple things for 24. And then we haven't issued debt since 22. So that debt figure is from the 22 bond. So we are in the process of also pulling reports and trying to figure out the best way to measure these measurements and looking at the benchmark and pulling reports, and it's kind of in process right now. And we will continue to refine these as we go through. And that's all I have for high level.
Gosh, Ms. Rand, you've been watching these for the past couple of weeks. You know, we like it short and sweet, I guess.
Less is more.
I think there are a lot of people who might say that about city government. So, yeah, that was quite quick. I just wanted to briefly give you an opportunity to explain one line item, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. We have $100,000 in here for consultant, and I understand that's higher than it was last year. Could you explain that? I'm on page 67 of the budget book.
Yes, we had an addition of $50,000 to that line, and that was for our current or our previous director is staying on board to help with the transition. So we have added some funds in there to help with that transition.
Excellent, thank you. I don't remember who started first last, so I'll turn it to Aldo Romanoni if you have questions.
Thanks. I have 2 questions. On your team chart, org chart, I see 2 deputy directors, both vacant. That's it. And I see that orange is a future new position.
Yes, the one shouldn't say vacant. It's just that's a position that I feel if you were to ask me where I think the team is needing positions or needing resources, especially coming off of the audit report indicating that we are lacking in resources and there's a lot of turnover, I feel that it may not be 2 deputy positions. It may be 2 manager positions. But we really do have a number of functions in the department that I do not feel that 1 deputy would be well suited to efficiently manage or help with, or it's hard to dive into the details for AP, payroll, utility billing, collections, AR, budget, operations, when you have all of that under 1 wing. So I do feel it's better suited to have 2 people that can really dive into those details in splitting, collections, billing, and AP maybe, and then versus accounting, treasury, audit. So there are a number of functions that I think are better suited in separate positions. if you're looking to really dive into any detail. So not necessarily to deputy positions. I would have to work with HR and you guys and figure out what that level would be. And it may be manager level versus a deputy. But in light of all of the functions that we have, I just feel that one deputy position, we're going to be looking for someone that has technical skill in too many areas.
Okay. And then I had a quick question about on the staffing summary in our book. I don't see the payroll position.
They are actually an accounting associate. So a lot of our positions, even cashiers and collections, they're all listed as accounting associates.
Okay. So it's not an additional person. It's just a.
It is. It actually is number accountant 2. Goes from 4 to 5. We also lost our risk manager to central services, so that's why there's a net of 1. I mean, a net of 0. But we lost our risk manager and we added an accountant.
So in our book, accounting 2 has 4 and 4. Unless we've received it.
If you look under risk management, accountant 2. At the N13 level.
I'm looking on page 66. Is that the page?
Yep.
May I help? I think,
Yes, please.
So the director meant accountant 2 when she was saying accountant associate. So the accountant 2 is the new position, which is payroll.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's where I was confused. I was like, wait a minute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So accountant 2, we're adding a position, and that's the payroll.
Correct. Payroll and AP.
Okay. And is it, that answered my last question is, so finance will move to Shaw Street as well?
Correct.
It'll be finance and central service
Correct.
mainly? Okay.
Yep.
And what about this? That also will be finance? Maynard?
But the budget
The
team will
budget
move.
team is, yes, they're coming with us.
We'll move to Shaw Street as well.
Okay. Do we have any idea what we're doing with that office then when you guys move?
No.
I've heard many different ideas. I'm not sure if one is set yet.
Council offices? Just kidding.
I think a lot of people want that house and really our space too. So
Okay. So the whole team is moving there. Okay, thank you.
correct.
But the public coming in will still use the cashier's office here.
We are still in the process of figuring that out. There's a lot of logistics with mail and cashiers and the law office being here, and we're still figuring out the cashiering part of it and taking payments.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Finley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions were very similar to what Alderwoman O'Neill referenced. I'll take the second one first because that's what we're talking about. The risk manager has moved to central services, so that's why you're a 0 there. Can we? I think the titles have changed as a result of the comp and class study. So can we have, when the titles change, like I don't know, the associate 2 was previously something else. We just need a key so we can keep track of the changes of the title. And I know, Ms. Moran, you're new, so you don't know, but Mr. Trudeau might be able to help us with wherever titles have changed. We just need to know what they are so that we're not inquiring about something that really does exist, even though we don't recognize that it.
Yes, ma'am.
That makes sense? Okay, thank you. Going back to my first question, it was about your org chart, and thank you. It appears, according to this, And I understand the dividing of the labor, for lack of a better description, and the titles. We traditionally use title for the number 2 person in the department. So if by chance you had to be out, who would be able to step in and manage everything? So that would traditionally be our deputy. And it definitely sounds like you're talking about creating managers for the other divisions within. So I think that might help in everybody's clarity of the structure of the department. You know, this chart gives us a true picture of how significant the finance department is and all that you manage. Most people have no idea. So thank you for clarifying all of this. Just rethinking who falls under the director. We have the budget manager, and then we have the 2 vacant positions that will become managers maybe. And then we have the internal auditor. Do you supervise the internal auditor? I thought that was kind of an independent position. It's internal is what it says, internal auditor.
So just
don't
to
know.
clarify, that's not a position we have. That's a function that I think we could benefit from having. And for multiple reasons, but also to help with the audit itself, and the management of that audit, but to really look at the finance department and the processes that go through it, and checking, you know, the systems of who has access to what, and, you know, how we can work more efficiently. And that kind of was just added in there as a, hey, this might help with efficiency. It might help with transparency. It could be beneficial. It's kind of just an idea in my vision. It's not a position that we have right now. And that may even look like contractual services to help with internal audit. It doesn't have to be a full-time added city employee. I'm just looking at my overall vision and kind of where we can help with inefficiencies and transparency and workload.
Well, I think we appreciate, or we should appreciate, your ability to come in and see where we're lacking. And that's not a negative thing, but where we could benefit from additional positions. This was not funded in the mayor's budget, however.
Correct. It wasn't requested either. This is
okay.
kind of a current and visionary
Okay.
team organizational chart.
So you have an opportunity here, because I always ask, what is not funded? What enhancements did you request? And granted, you didn't request this, but if you had an opportunity to make a plea to us, the finance committee, to add that position, I mean, how would you respond? And I think you just did.
Yes, I would respond that if I were here to ask for enhancements, I would ask for some funds for digitization of records prior to Shaw Street, training, which we do have some added in the proposed budget. I think there's a lot of technical responsibility or duties in the finance department that we could. There's 2 solutions to that: either adding positions, improving training. And then also my request would be either adding consulting for some of these futuristic positions, or adding a position. We're finding that even though the current deputy position is open, it's been a struggle to try to find the technical skill that's needed in that position. That was kind of my thought process with maybe dividing that position. Maybe we'd have better luck finding some technical skill if it's more centralized or more narrow. And then the internal auditor. And that also kind of sparked from the audit opinion and what the auditors had said about needing resources and their concern with the changeover and just the lack of resources. There's a lot of vacancies. But as you know, sometimes adding a position, if you can't fill it, doesn't necessarily solve your problem. And with that comes training. And I know every department needs training when they hire someone, but really in finance, there is that technical level of skill that's needed that is hard to put on paper. So I do also appreciate you recognizing all of the functions that finance has and the work that's done behind the scenes that no one really sees.
Well, I'm going to ask you to give us your list, because we do have an opportunity to amend. And I can't think of a better opportunity. So if you, Mr. Trudeau, can you help us out with this? Those positions and what they would cost, how we could fund what you're requesting. And I think it's quite appropriate, I think I said already, that new person coming in, looking at the lay of the land and looking at what you need to be able to make us an even better department. And I think we should be about helping you with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we
So-
will definitely work together and get back to you on.
That would
Potential.
be great. When's the deadline for amendments? The 8th?
May 9th.
Oh, the 9th. Okay. I got an extra day. No, I'm just kidding. I had another question. I'm looking for my little pink stickies here. Community grants went down $10,000. And maybe Ms. Young, I should have asked that question of her. I think we had fewer requests. Is that why the funding went down, or is there any explanation for?
That is correct. I actually had looked at that too and wondered why the funding had gone down. But if you look at it as a percent of total request in the FY25 budget of what was requested from those communities or the programs, you all had funded 34% of the request. This year, even though it went down slightly, $10,000, it's actually 42% of what was requested.
Okay. Well, that's good. I don't think we've ever looked at it quite that way, but good to know that there was some thought process going into why those funds went down. I have a couple of other notes, but I think you've answered everything. So again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again for being here. I think I've only got one question that's really directly for your department, and then I'm going to use the opportunity to ask a bunch more questions about the budget. So for this potential, and I know we're kind of getting stuck on these things that aren't actually in the budget, but for this potential internal auditor position, is the idea that that would replace an external auditor, or it would be in addition to?
No, that would be additional.
Okay.
And that would be more operational as well, looking at our processes and also maybe helping with the IT implementation of ACHs and kind of that overall risk mitigation, efficiency.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of this digitization idea, and I think what you're saying about getting that done sooner rather than later makes a lot of sense. Could you just get back to us with what a amendment for that would require? Like, what are we talking here? How much are we talking? 20,000, 50,000? What do you need? Just doesn't have to be right now, but if you could follow up with us on what you think might be needed.
Yes, and I know Director Jakubiak had also put that in his enhancements, and it was funded. So I did want to get with him to see where he was, if he's in talking to a consultant or a company or somewhere that he feels, that he's already done that legwork and feels that he has a good number. I don't know their volume of records. I would imagine it's similar to ours, but being that we are looking for space, well, we have a lot of space that's occupied by records that we may not even need in general, but also that we can digitize.
I have a sense that maybe you guys should also talk to the law office about that. I think
Correct.
they also have a lot of records. Okay, so moving on to these kind of more general budget questions. And so, Budget Manager Trudeau, these are kind of to you as well. Is there anywhere that our general fund is going into our enterprise funds? Are any of our main enterprise funds getting subsidized by the general?
Well, transportation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I guess I should have started with transportation. But so I'm actually thinking more sewer, water, and watershed restoration and refuge. Are any of those getting transfers from the general fund?
No.
No.
Okay. Thank you for explaining. Could you talk me through? Actually, let's say that that's a big question. Administrative reimbursements is looking like it's going to jump in FY26 proposed from about 4 million the past few years to about 6 million this year. It's a big, hopeful revenue increase. What do we think that's from? Page 22.
So part of that is what we discussed yesterday, where it was, admin charges from the enterprise funds, right? Cost of doing business, we'll say. The other part of that is the overhead charge that is included in capital projects. So if those don't go forward, right, then that would impact that number.
So the increase is because of what we were talking about with the enterprise funds, that they're expected to see those increase because they're expecting additional fees. Is that correct?
So I would drill it down to I think capital projects, the completion of that, the moving forward of those projects is driving that number, and the fact that we've baked in more capital, like the overhead charges within those capital projects, I would say that's the primary driver in the increase there.
And those capital projects you're not exclusively talking about capital projects that are funded out of enterprise funds, right? Capital projects more broadly, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Similar question about the pilot, hold on. Our payment in lieu of taxes here is projected to be, again, I'm looking at page 22, 333,000 in FY25, and then we're going back down to 286 in FY26. My understanding was that the pilot is tied to inflation, so how would it go back down?
Yes, this is not the state pilot. That is shown in intergovernmental.
Got it. So who is this pilot from?
These are like little communities around here, where we do a payment in lieu of for them. So when I created these numbers for 26, I could see that there was some set up that we didn't have any revenue come in, or it came in lower. So for the ones that we didn't have revenue come in, we're researching and figuring out why that happened. But for the, I was more conservative in my approach this year.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. So can you point me to where we would see the state one? Oh, okay. Intergovernmental.
Actually, pulling up OpenGov here, and I'll tell you
thank
which
you.
category.
Same page, right?
Same page. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where in intergovernmental that would be.
I'm sorry, I think it's charges for services. Let me pull it up exactly. But OpenGov is lagging. I apologize.
Oh, is it this other under charges for services?
Yes.
Got it. And so that is going up. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you explaining that. Okay, so here's my very big question, and I assume this is going to take a little while to explain, but I think I want to explain to me, but I definitely want to explain to the public. So I've heard a lot of questions about our fund balances and how, in a way, it looks like what's happening is that we kind of build up a fund balance and then we, in each year, run a deficit, right? Because we're going back into that fund balance. My understanding of this is that what's really happening is that we are, A, being pretty conservative in our budget estimates, and B, we're returning money at the end of the year to those and then expecting to use that in the following year. But it's a way of accounting. It's not just having these revolving funds. Could you all please walk us through, and I'm looking particularly at page I might have to tell you what page I'm looking at. But yes, that was it. Yep. Could you please kind of walk us through how that accounting works to make sure that we're not just doing these revolving funds and how we're not really running a deficit?
You were looking at page 19,
Oh, 15.
15.
Good question.
So, like I said, big question, but this idea of, okay, if it looks like we are running a deficit in certain areas and going back into these fund balances, is that because, the city of Annapolis is always running deficits, or is that because there is a reason that we're doing it for accounting purposes? And if it is the latter, as I think, could you explain what those purposes are?
So I think if you look at page 19, that could also help you with the fund balance summary. So we have in FY24, we have fund balances, and those would be for the general fund unassigned, which we have, the 15% level we have to withhold, the budget stabilization, capital reserve, and then one-time uses. So these FY24 numbers come from the financial statements. And then what we do is we look at, okay, what's the projected savings or additional fund balance that's going to be potentially added at the end of FY25, and then what of that we can use in 26. And these are all also tied to our policies and what levels we need to maintain. So yes, it looks like we're operating at a deficit and using. But that kind of comes into play with the one time that's used, and then the capital reserve that's used. So I think I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's the way that you're perceiving it is correct. But we are using those. I think those fund balances are set up that way to use them that way.
I think that makes sense. Alderman Phillips, I know you have other questions. I'll come back to you.
Go. Yeah, I
but
think she's answered.
I want to.
I mean, particularly capital, like it's kind of set up that way to use, and then one time, but it's not necessarily that they'll always be there. So
Right.
each year they do have to be evaluated.
Alderman Ernick, why don't I turn this to you, because you and I were talking about this. I feel like maybe you have some more questions while we're on this topic, and then I do want to come back to a couple other questions I have.
Yeah, I think the confusion starts with page 16. The city code requires that the mayor submit a budget where revenues are equal to or exceed expenditure. And when you look at table 16, clearly table 14, clearly revenues are well under expenditure. And so we go through this gymnastics on page 15, which I have to admit, ever since this has been introduced, I really cannot comprehend. And I do have some college credits in accounting, and I'm an economic. I cannot understand page 19, but it is some hieroglyphics that on page 16 bring revenues up to be slightly above the level of expenditure. So we have a small fund balance of 143,000. I really don't understand why we account that way, and what all of these different kinds of transactions are doing. But it's $15 million of various things that go on, and some of it is, as you say, carryover from preceding fiscal year. And actually, I'm writing a question to come to the finance department about this very issue. We did not do this until the beginning of this administration. Every other administration had always submitted. Ellen Moyer always submitted budget where revenues equaled expenditures, exactly. Cohen started coming in with revenues that were slightly above expenditures. Same thing with Panelides. And then we had this big change. And I've always assumed it's because of accounting principles. But I've never understood what the accounting principle is that we're addressing by doing this. And
I think that's the question right there.
Yeah.
What is the accounting principle that we're addressing by doing that? And again, Alderman Arnett has probably the most accounting experience. I also have one college accounting credit. But yeah, I would say, can you help us understand why we use that principle? How it's
Yes. So if we just look at the general, just to make it simple, if you just look at the
A little
general,
louder.
if you just look at the general fund,
General fund.
yep. So that $7 million difference in the revenues and expenses, those are both tied to page 15.
Could you pull your mic closer because I'm having a hard time. Thank you.
Yep. So if you just look at the general fund on page 16, that $7 million difference between the revenues and the expenses,
I'm looking at page 16. I see,
7.3 million on the very first line.
yes, at the top, right.
So that number ties to page 15, the total of the use of capital reserve and the use of one-time funds. So essentially, PAYGO is that capital reserve. So that is the portion of the capital budget that is being funded with fund balance in the general fund, PAYGO money. So I think it becomes really a question of how our reserve accounts are set up, and the language and the legislation that is behind that in the use of one-time funds and the capital reserve fund.
I'll add too that the expenses for capital reserve and the one time are included in the general fund expenses.
Correct.
And I'll also add that if we didn't use fund balance for your enterprise funds, we would arguably potentially see increase in rates from what we are already programmed for this year.
So I think we have to peel back a level. That every fund has a fund balance requirement. The general fund happens to have a 15% requirement. The capital fund, I think, has a 10%, and the enterprise funds all have a 10% balance. This is coming from the capital fund. So it's saying that we're overspending for capital in 26. So we need to dip into the fund balance for capital reserves.
So a better way to think about it is the use of fund balance from an accounting standpoint or just a financial standpoint. The best and really only use of fund balance should be to fund one-time things. They're not for reoccurring. You get into an issue when you're using your fund balance, or you have to use your fund balance to offset ongoing expenses. We have included as part of our general fund expenses that are one-time, whether it be capital or programs, operational one-time. So we're not going to need to increase revenues, whether it be through taxes or whatever, to fund things that are not ongoing. That's really the use of fund balance. If not, you just keep adding to fund balance and not using it. The idea of fund balance is that they can be used for one-time things. Capital is a one-time. There's a lot of things in our operating budget that are one-time. And I think it creates, by not doing that, you could have artificially needed to inflate revenues to support one-time expenses.
Thank
But
you.
Do you
Yeah.
have to replenish the capital fund back to its proper levels?
Yes.
Thank
So
where's
per
that
Yes.
replenishment?
But let's leave it at that. Yes.
Yes.
We do have to. Alderwoman Finlayson had a question as well.
Well, I was going back to the page 15 with the list of non-recurring expenses, and I just wondered, Cars Beach is listed there, but I don't think that's a cumulative cost for Cars Beach. I have a feeling that's ongoing.
Correct. So this portion that you're referring to, that 4.2 million in that chart, that is just the portion of the capital budget that is being funded by the capital reserve.
Okay.
So
it's-
the capital projects are funded through either grants or
Mhm.
or capital reserve
Where is
or
it listed?
bonds.
the 420.
So the alternative it would be, if we didn't have this pay-go capital reserve to pull from, you'd have to increase your bond or decrease your projects.
Okay. My other question had to do with under the one-time reserve, same page 15, mayor's initiatives. Do we have a breakdown of what those things are?
I just want to interject and say this, because I've gotten a lot of questions about this. This line is not mayor's initiatives. It is central services contractual support for the mayor's.
What are you reading? Because this is mayor's initiative right here.
But it's two lines: central services contractual.
Okay.
So just because I've gotten a
Okay.
lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
Thank
but-
you for clarifying.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
Director Moran can answer the question. I just wanted
Yeah.
to.
Well, I can't read, obviously. So my other question was about the URASI program manager. Isn't that paid for with the URASI funds, that USI funds? This program manager 102 to
That's for the so the UASI is a grant. This is the unmanned
space.
drone UAS. It's the program manager for police for the new drone program. So they're trying that out as a pilot program next year. So that's why we put one-time funds towards
Okay,
that.
so it's not URASI funds.
Correct.
But it's okay.
Yep.
Got it. I think that's all for now.
Okay.
No, I did have one question about and I don't remember now what page, about the harbor master reduction in revenue. Is that because of city dock?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so they've already calculated it's going to be 200,000 less in revenue because of city dock's renovation.
20%, yes.
20%. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Do we have a breakdown of what that central services contractual support mayor's initiatives 500,000? I know that when central service was here, they were talking about, I believe, that 500,000 or an additional $500,000.
I think there was definitely a miscommunication in that, and there are some meetings that are taking place in the next couple of days to discuss that and kind of get a better breakdown. So we can get back to you on that once we get some clarification, because there is a misunderstanding.
Okay, so it's not the same funding. Or it
That is
might
the
be.
funding they were talking about, but the use of that funding, I think there's a miscommunication. So
Okay.
we will get back to you on that, but the question's been raised.
Okay. My worry was, in that conversation, they said that it was probably going to go towards the transportation HVAC. And when I'm looking at boiler replacements of 395 and 417, I would guess that boiler replacements and HVAC are similar projects. So I'm wondering if the $500,000 is going to be enough.
I think, can I say, let's put a pin in this. And when we have the city manager and mayor, I think we're going to have the mayor's office back here on Monday. This is definitely going to be a point that we need to go over with all of them. And because, yeah, there has been some miscommunication. I think that's mislabeled, is what I heard from our budget manager. And we need a little more with everybody. Is that
Thank
okay
you.
with you, Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yep.
Okay. My, I think maybe last question is to go through the non-allocated budget summary. And I understand some of these are fairly straightforward. Our debt service, committee grants, contributions,
What page,
OPEB,
please?
67. contributions to self-insurance, I get all those. We can skip over those. Can you please walk me through the other 4 parts? And let's start by saying, could you please explain the difference between contingency and compensation contingency, and why contingency in particular looks kind of funny. We haven't actually spent it the past 2 years, even though we've allocated it. So what are those? Why do we pick those numbers, and why didn't we spend it in the past?
Okay, so let me first start with the compensation contingency. That 500, that is left in there for the class and comp study and the career ladders. They have not, because it's not completed, it has not been allocated to the individual departments, as there's a lot of unknowns right now. So that's kind of a placeholder. It is a placeholder for career ladders that, you know, every department has spoke on their career ladder situation, and the position's already budgeted. That is a placeholder that has not been allocated. So that could cover somebody within the finance department that would be now eligible to move up in their career ladder based on the class and comp study.
Got it. So to put it in plain terms, it's money that we haven't allocated, but that we might use for promotion.
Correct. For
Got it.
current employees.
Thank you.
Correct. The 300 contingency, that is, I can't speak on where the 300 came from originally, but that could cover things like a year that we have massive snow and we need more money in that. It's a operating reserve for unforeseeable things. And snow is something large that I just, could give an
Snow
example
is a
on.
perfect example. That's great.
And interfund transfers.
Hold on. Actually, on that
Yes.
contingency, can I ask, just because you used this example of snow,
Yeah.
we did have a lot of snow this year, and we did have, I think, higher costs than we expected. So then why is this projected as $0? Wouldn't that be the situation in which we would use that?
It would be a situation we could use it. We haven't done the final. I'd have to take a look at that line item exactly and figure out.
Yeah,
Where
I'm pretty
we
in the
sit.
weeds there, but just curious. Maybe Budget Manager Trudeau, you got something?
So yes, snow did exceed. We were talking with him. Maybe they could find funding internally within DPW at first, but contingency is the proper account to pull that from. So you'll most likely see that in fourth quarter transfer that we bring before you.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so interfund transfers. Yeah, I kind of understand. I think I understand this one pretty well, but if you wouldn't mind walking through it.
Yes. So that 5.2 number is a combination of that $4 million that we were speaking on, the capital reserve
Mm-hmm.
projects fund.
Yeah.
That's just a transfer over to pay the portion of the capital budget. The other piece is the transfer to the fleet replacement, and that's $1 million, and that's to cover the debt service for that.
Right. And just out of curiosity, why do we describe that as an interfund transfer as opposed to more similar to how we describe the contribution to the self-insurance fund? Seems relatively analogous to that. Why do we not say contribution to fleet replacement fund and break it out? Is there any particular reason?
No, you
No.
could say it.
Okay.
but-
Cool. And then, yeah, if you could just go line by line on the other, because a couple of these in the other, like VIBA, I don't know what that is at all. And then the other ones seem almost like they'd be revenue. So if you could just go through those 5 that are on page 68, I'd appreciate it. Or if you want to get back to us on it, that's fine.
I can get back to you on that one. I'd have to talk to HR too about the logistics or the technical side of like the VIBA chop.
What is VIBA Chop? Or
So-
that an
VIBA
HR
is
fund?
you want to add, it's the employee benefit piece.
Oh, okay.
So let's say, I've got 50 hours of vacation and I can only carry over 40. Those 10 hours will go into the VIBA chop, and then it is added to our. It's basically here as a placeholder in case the department's budgets can't absorb that chop cost, because it's a cost that because it's money sent over right to the VIVA program. So if the department needs more funding, we will transfer it out of this account into their department to cover the VIVA CHOP.
Yeah.
In essence, each day that our employees, sorry, those are dollars you're accounting for each day. So it's money that the employees have earned by way of their leave. And those that go into the CHOP means that's money in the city's coffers, for lack of a better description, that can be used, correct?
So this goes into the individual's VIVA account.
Yeah. I
So
don't
that they
have
can
any
take
city.
with them when if they
Yeah.
depart.
But I just want us to think about them as dollars.
They are absolutely
yeah.
yes.
It makes it easier to explain. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then
Absolutely.
like the ambulance transport fees, that's the third party that we use that manages the billing for the ambulance and then collecting from the insurance providers, and that's 150,000 of that.
Got
The
it.
grant to HACA 80,000. I think you probably know that one.
And so traffic signal fees similar to ambulance transport. That's
Yes,
what we're using to be able to collect those fees.
correct.
Okay.
The
that makes sense.
contracting expense side of it.
Okay, great. One last question for you, and feel free to tell me if I should go back to Department of Transportation for this. But on page 119, there is 3.8 of other revenue in the parking fund budget. Listed as other revenues. Is this our Hillman garage payment or waterfall?
The other revenue, yes, that is the
Water.
the net of that.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Just wanted to double check on that. That's what I figured. Do I see questions from either of my colleagues?
Thank
Alderman O'Neill?
I think I'm done.
No?
Thank you.
Alderman Arnett, you got the next 5 minutes.
Thank you. So I'll start with the big one, which is different than the heinous question that the chair usually asks, which is, what would you do with the 10% cut? The question actually comes from the newspapers, which is, why can't this accounting function all be done by the county? Thank you, ABC Annapolis.
Can you repeat the question?
There's been put forth by a group in the city that many of the functions done by the city, and particularly the internal functions, could be done by the county. That all of our financial operations, billing, collection, all of those things could be done in the county. And I'm probably hitting you too cold with this, but it is something that many of us are thinking about and rejoining. I can't imagine myself, the county, doing our accounting, but it is a question on the win.
May I ask, Alderman, didn't we create or fund a task force, and maybe it wasn't a task force, to look at this? Because I started getting mail, and I mean packages of data from past committees to be used by our committee, but that committee never came to pass. The city manager, I think, was responsible for getting a committee together to look at the benefit of going to the county, and not just with finance,
Yeah.
but with police and fire and everything.
Yeah, and we never did.
And that never happened. So
Yeah.
shame on us for not pursuing
Right.
that discussion years ago when we generated, but it never happened.
You're absolutely correct. And I do think we need to do it because there are a significant number of people. The candidate, a Democratic candidate from Ward 8, is being asked this and knocking on doors. So I think it's something, you're right, we need to look at it more generally. Looking at this more, the budget more specifically, and your org chart,
Wait, hold on. Did you want Director Moran to answer that question?
no, it was a rhetorical question. But
I
to
also
raise
don't know
the
that the county wants us, but
issue. Right.
We don't want them.
we're a little bit complex.
Where is the ACFR? ACFR, is that the new name? Yeah, where's that done in your org chart?
It's not. So that's another reason why I feel that we need a couple more positions or contractual services that falls on typically the deputy and myself, more heavily in the director's current responsibility than it probably should be. Some of the accounting staff is getting pulled into it and will be trained, and that's part of my visionary for it, is that the accounting manager will be able to be more hands-on, and the deputy for the ACFR, because it is such a large responsibility and time-consuming.
So if you may remember from the last audit committee meeting, this was an issue. And it was a two-part issue. One is the requirement in our code that it be delivered in December, a realistic expectation. And we've never come within 200 days of meeting that. Or more appropriately, shouldn't there be some more money in the budget to provide assistance to get the ACFR done, either through internal staff or an outside assistant, as we got from our external auditor this year. But it's not in the budget, and it's certainly a budget amendment that I would be willing to offer and support. But it is the basis for our budget making. And it does seem like it needs to be prioritized in the budget process, this budget process. So I think I'm answering my own question to you, but I
That
do
doesn't
think
sound like you at all.
I do think we need to have a budget supplement coming from you about what kind of staff or money you would need to improve our ability to get the ACFR done on time.
So, Director Moran, could you get us an estimate after this on what, if anything, it would take to have the ACFR done? I think we heard in the audit committee from former Director Dickinson that on time is not realistic for a couple of reasons, but perhaps to have that done faster.
Yes, our end would appreciate the expedition of that too. It creates a lot of challenges in budgeting as well, not having final numbers prior to March. And then also it just bleeds into too many of our other responsibilities by having that outstanding for that long of a time. So yes, we will get back to you on what could potentially be needed. And that might be a work in progress, trying to figure out what the best approach is, whether it's with consulting or a position, and also additional training, and maybe utilizing some of the staff that we have that just hasn't been trained on it.
The next
Hold on.
question.
We're over time. I think we're going to wrap up.
Well, can we just ask one quick more question about all of these different community grants? We have the community grant money here. We have Adopt a Community. We have Annapolis United. We have several different from Alderman Gay. Most of them funded from one-time only money, which presumably means one time only. And would there be help in amending the budget to increase the amount of the community grant to include in that budget all of these ongoing programs that are funded with one-time only money? See, these are friendly questions.
It's a good question.
One point just to make is that Adopt a Community is not included in this proposed budget.
Pardon?
Adopt a Community,
Where is it in the budget?
it's not.
I know, but it is an ongoing program that I think actually has demonstrated success. I'm not sure where Annapolis United is anymore. And I know that Alderman Gay has 2 or 3 different programs that do rental assistance, people who are kicked out of their house assistance, and some other assistance problems, which in past years have been funded by one-time only money. And I think there are things that we believe are good things to do, but I think they're not one-time only, and they need a permanent place to be parked in the budget.
Budget Manager Trudeau, could you answer where in the FY25 budget the Adopt a Community and Annapolis United are in the FY25 budget?
Yes, Adopt a Community is not included because we used one-time funds in the past, much like Alderman Gay's programs that were using one-time funds. Now, we do have funding in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, for some of those programs, right, which are reoccurring. We also, so community grants are reoccurring. I want to make sure I answered everything. Adopt a Community is not in there. Annapolis United is in the mayor's office.
But
And-
if we wanted to put them in the budget as an amendment and put them at a place where they would be permanent, not one time only, it does seem, I put this to the finance committee, it seems like that's the appropriate place for them to reside if we're going to continue to do these programs.
All right, I'm going to cut us off there. I have one very brief request for our budget manager. Yeah, one brief request. On page 25, we're listed as general fund summary, and really everything on there is not the general fund. We just get that relabeled to say like other fund summary or fund summary, something other than general fund summary. Because I think some folks are getting confused, asking me about why is the general fund putting money towards the enterprise funds? Just a simple relabeling at the top of the page would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion for the Finance Committee recess until 10:45?
Move to adjourn for 10 minutes?
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting of the Finance Committee is called back to order at 10:48 a.m. At this time, we'll have presentations. Well, we'll have presentations, I guess we'll call it, from each of our union representatives of our city's represented staff. My hope with this is to get a better understanding of the folks on the ground's needs and really hear, as we're hearing from our city department leaders, also hear from the folks who are doing the work. So, Mr. Pilot, you're up first.
All right.
We'll turn it to you. And Ms. Jackson, if you could put, let's call it 8 minutes on the clock. Thank you.
All right. I'm Joe Pilot, president of the Annapolis Professional Firefighters, IFF Local 1926. I appreciate the opportunity to speak regarding our budget. I don't have a whole lot on the operating budget itself, more the enhancements that were asked for. A little bit different order as far as what Chief Romali put forward. For us, staffing is our number one priority. It's kind of beating a dead horse at this point. He asked for 10 positions, and I know those are supposed to be grant funded if we can get a safer grant. I think 4 of those should be funded whether we can get a grant or not. Those 4 would put in service another ALS paramedic unit, which we desperately need. On a daily basis, we're out of medic units in this city, and we're constantly calling on Anne Arundel County for support or the Naval Academy to provide ambulances because we're out. The peak times is, I think, where we were going to, Chief Romali planned to start and then eventually make it a 24-hour thing. But the need is there. The statistics show it. It's nothing crazy as far as I'm concerned. The way that the city's building and the amount of infrastructure and housing that's coming up, there's a need. Or there's going to be a need. Crystal Springs Farm Road is going to be an impact on emergency services in the city, and it's not planned for at this point. So that's our number one. Number 2 was the dedicated IT professional. That goes kind of without saying. We do brag that we do a lot more with less in the fire department. We're firefighters. We're not IT people. Everything, every piece of equipment that we run has a tablet or a computer of some sort. All our fire reports are on a program. EMS reports are on a program. Our daily checks are on a program. It's a lot to manage, and I don't think that's a reasonable ask for, us to take care of in the department. It's a lot to manage. Third thing was there were some equipment replacements, cardiac monitors, SCBA things. Those are, as far as I'm concerned, cost of doing business. They're not enhancements, so to speak. They're keeping up with expiration dates and things like that. So that's nothing as far like I said, not an enhancement as far as I'm concerned. That's literally the cost of doing business. The cardiac monitors are a huge thing. If we don't have those, we can't do our job on these medic units. And for the service that we provide, they are an essential part of that. And then the last thing was there was a logistics officer position that was proposed to become a civilian position. We don't agree with that. We think that should be a uniform position. Currently, the logistics officer does a lot that pertains to more. It's more than just ordering toilet paper and T-shirts. It's something that you have to have a knowledge of the fire department. Our day to day. There's a lot of emergency stuff that goes on too, where the logistics officer's coming in to gear gets damaged on a fire. He's coming in to get new gear out, knowing what gear to get. If we have another tornado like we did, he's responsible for getting things like the light towers. Items coming into the city. It's a big responsibility. If you have no fire department experience, so to speak, I don't think that would be a very efficient way to manage the division. That's all I had on the enhancements. And then I had one last thing, which was a question for you. If you had to cut 10% from our budget, where would you cut it from?
Thank you, Mr. Pilot. That's Yeah, I felt a little bit bad having Chief Romali be the first one I had to ask that question of, but it was just the luck of his draw. I have a couple questions based on what you're talking about, and these are probably more for the budget manager. I just want to square what you're saying to us with what we're looking at in our budget. When you're talking about 4 more positions, would those fall under firefighter 1, 2, 3, firefighter 1C, or fire lieutenant?
They would be new hires, so they would fall under firefighter 1.
Got it.
And then I believe once they graduate an academy and have all their training, they're off probation, they move to a 2.
Okay, thank you. And that the logistics officer that you're talking about, I don't see a position titled logistics officer in our budget book.
It was not funded.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Are you talking about, sorry, logistics officer?
The one that Mr. Pilot was mentioning, yeah, that you were mentioning as having gotten switched over to civilian. What would be the title of that in our book? It said the fire administrative officer?
No, that would be the secretaries, I believe.
I don't see it. You say it was an enhancement put forward?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't
was
see
one
it
of
in our
the
listing.
ones that Chief Romali had mentioned.
Maybe we'll have to follow up on that.
Accounts and equipment administrator?
That would probably be it, yeah.
That was not funded.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Alderwoman Finlayson, questions?
But one. How frequently do you interface with the chief?
Often. We talk daily.
Okay, so everything that you've shared with us, you've already shared with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe some of the requests he has made, he's put it in the budget or has
Mhm.
made the budget. The ongoing costs like the cardiac monitors and the like, you're absolutely right. We should find a way to make that a recurring expense. Cost of doing business, I think is what you said, without having to make a request every. Mr. Trudeau, can you make a notation if it's not in a place where it's automatically recurring? It should be.
Yes, we've discussed with fire and police to maybe create like a capital program, a capital project of some sort where there's reoccurring funds. For example, fitness equipment replacement for Wrexham Parks, we have a reoccurring funding. So what we need from them though is a schedule. So it's something that we're talking about. It's not obviously not in the 26 budget, but potentially going forward we could entertain.
Okay, that's the important thing, that it's on the radar and it'll come to pass. So, and if I were asked where the 10% would come from, it wouldn't.
Thank you.
That's the bottom line. I mean, and the community would back me up 200% on that, because they've told us that in a number of surveys and the like. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, actually, I just wrote a missive yesterday about the budget where I was talking about, the importance of asking the question so that we can, weigh things. But I specifically wrote in there, I was like, boy, the place we don't want to have that come from is ambulance response times. Alderman Arnett, you got any questions?
Just one. Where do the fire marshals show up? I don't see it in staffing for either fire or planning and zoning.
For the fire marshals, is the inspectors or
Yeah.
the investigators?
Well, I don't know. I just know there's
We have the
five.
investigators who fall under, they're on the operations side. The inspectors are here at Gorman Street that do the fire safety inspections. I don't know if they fall under on the admin side of the org chart, or
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying.
I don't have the org chart in front of me, but
Yeah, I'm looking at planning and zoning staff. I don't see, I mean, it might be there, but I don't find fire marshals there. and I'm looking at your staffing, and I don't see fire marshals there either, although they may be under some other name. And it sounds to me like you're indicating there's two different classes. There's
We have inspectors and investigators. Investigators are our bomb techs, and the fire investigators for fire loss. And
So the investigators, it would seem, would be strictly fire.
correct.
That wouldn't be a,
Maybe we'll have to get back on that one.
yeah.
If you had an org chart that I could see,
Yeah.
I might be able to point it out.
Unless budget manager Trudeau is able to find
Maybe-
it that quickly. But we might have
There's
some.
there's 2 fire safety inspectors in the fire department's staffing summary, but I'll bring the staffing summary in front of Mr. Pilot to.
Yeah, because traditionally this has been a mix of captains and lieutenants. I mean, they're not N9s. Oh, here it is. Oh no, that's quality assurance officer.
So the fire protection engineer would be part of the fire marshal's office as far as the inspectors go, and then the fire safety inspectors. There's 2 of those, and then there's a captain and a lieutenant in there as well, and then an office associate.
So I see fire protection engineer. What was the other? Fire safety?
Fire safety inspector.
But that's civilian. That's an N9.
Those are 2 Yeah,
So are the people in the fire marshal? I thought that all the people in the fire marshal's office were fire certified. In fact, I think a lot of them come over to Phil Baker. But that's
the 2 civilians that are currently in there are retired.
okay.
Retired firefighters.
All right.
Interesting. Good to know. All right. I want to keep this moving, and I know, Mr. Pilot, you have somewhere to go.
Yep.
Thank you very much for being here with
Thank
us.
you.
This has accomplished exactly what I wanted. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Jamie Goodmichael. I work for an with 312 Acme Circle. So my understanding is for budget. Oh, I'm sorry. We start over. All right. My name is Jamie Goodmichael. I work for Annapolis City Police. I'm the president for Local 3162 Clerical and Technical for ASME. So when he talks about the fire inspection people, they're my people because they're civilians.
We should have called you up.
Right. They're my people. So the 2 safety officers and the secretary is in my local.
Can I ask you to describe, just to start us off, the breadth of the positions that you represent?
Okay, so I'm the president of the clerical and technical. So I deal with grievances, any issues that we have in negotiations, anything I need to fight for. Like I fought for my dispatchers to get more people, which
Right,
we
but
still
I mean,
short.
which kinds of positions are represented besides like clerical and technical?
Clerical and technical
Generally-
is office administrators. I deal with the fire inspectors are underneath me. Records, public works, administrative assistants are underneath of me.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Huh? And transportation too. Transportation and Recs and Parks. We deal with all the people that do clerical work.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So what we need is, I believe it was 2008 or 10 when we got furloughed and fired some of our people. But we're still short on some of our clerical people. The records department is still short. I know our police dispatchers are short 2 people to make it a full staff. And we were struggling between COVID, where our people were working 2 years straight with no real days off, and they were short of staff already. So we just got up to 8 people. We need a total of 10 to work in that room. So I know that that is a difficult situation that we're dealing with, and they dealt with that with grace and mercy. So I'm glad that they now have at least 8 so these people can get some type of break, but they literally didn't during the hard times that we had. So yeah, that's basically our records department is short too. We're short 2 people. So if y'all looking at, adding some people, and our people have been here for 30 to 40 years. Our ASME locals, our people stay around for a long time. So we need some new people in so we can give that off, because when our people retire, we're going to be in trouble if we don't get some younger people in there to learn the way of, different departments. So that's why we're looking for more staff. You have any questions for me?
Thank you. So can you describe, and maybe I'll rely some on our director of finance here, for these positions you've been describing, how many of these are that they are funded but vacant versus how many of them are not funded?
I know transportation has, I believe, 2 vacancies. The police department, I believe we have 3 or 4 that's clerical. That's for clerical, but I know for the dispatchers, it's 2 positions that needs to be filled. Public works and Recs and Parks. I'm not for sure how many positions that belong to us that's vacant, but we had a lot of layoffs through ASME.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate you making that.
Mm-hmm.
Alderwoman Finlayson, you got any questions?
I do. You represent a broad range of folks,
Yes.
and they are probably some of the last people we really think about. And they're the ones out there doing the work on the streets for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
How much dialogue do you have? You're dealing with transportation, you're dealing with rec park, you're dealing with public works, you're dealing with the police department, you're dealing with the fire department. You probably deal with every single department
Yes.
in the city,
Except for finance.
except for finance
Yes. And HR.
and HR.
Yep.
So how much dialogue do you have an opportunity to have as those directors are thinking about their budget?
None.
Okay.
That's the bigger problem. They don't see that we're needed because we've been doing the work for so long, short staff. They don't see that it's hard. And when we bring it up to them, oh, we'll take care of you, but you take care. And no disrespect to fire and police, we need them. But you need us too, because we are the ones that help fire and police to do their job. We dispatch, because if we didn't have dispatches, fire and police would be in trouble. So we need them. 2, also paperwork. We do the paperwork, make sure fire and police are covered, and making sure all their paperwork is in properly for the state's attorney's office or for, the news, or if any issues happen. We are the ones that push the paperwork. So
I don't want you to get into trouble here.
Uh-huh.
And we're getting pretty close to that line of talking about issues of subjects of bargaining. I just wanted to make it clear what kind of relationship you have with the department head. And I want it to be abundantly clear that the people, the ASME locals, and we have 2 of them,
yes,
represent most of our rank and file people on the street.
yes.
We talk frequently about upper management and executives, and we just had a huge discussion for months on executive pay scales. But very rarely do we have a discussion about what we're doing for the rank and file. When we did interest-based bargaining, it's been over 10 years now, all 4 unions were at the table. Took us 13 months, but we earned a respect for all of our employees, regardless of the union. And police learned to respect ASME, and so it was across the board. And I would hate for us to lose that.
No disrespect to any other unions, but I'm just stating what our people do and they don't see.
I
Yes.
understand, and that's why I'm making the point
Yeah.
that when we have our discussions, I'm talking to my colleagues on the dais and those who aren't here, that we have those discussions about management. We also need to have the discussion about the majority of our employees. Maybe 100 are in management or even 200. That still leaves 400 people who represent us and who, like I said, do the work every day. So I just want to thank you. I know you've been doing this for a while,
Yes.
and I know it's hard
Definitely.
to have so many different types of jobs and the people in those jobs to represent. So anyway, I thank you.
I couldn't agree more, Alderman Gleason. That's exactly why I wanted to have you folks come and talk today. And I just feel like you said, we have the vast majority of the people working for the city, which frankly means the vast majority of the city's budget is not management. And so thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all you do. Alderman Arnett, you got any questions?
Yes. First of all, a thank you to the Finance Committee for thinking to have the unions here. And Alderwoman Finlayson is correct. It was 2013 when we did the interest-based bargaining. And that's the last time I've had any interface with any union people. And in fact, I think we need to get some kind of brief description
Sorry.
from each of the unions about what they do. As I was saying, the last time I was in association with union people was at the IBB.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, we tend to forget about that. And these are the people that do the day-to-day work. And I couldn't really give you a good explanation. We're not involved in union negotiations at all, except to approve the contract, which is presented fait accompli. The Financial Advisory Commission has wanted to get more involved in the actual union negotiation process, and they've been shunned by the administration quite regularly. They are our representative to the unions in principle, in code, but not in reality. So this is actually a very good thing, and I wish I had a stronger sense of what kind of record keeping and other things that are being done by your part of AFSCME. And I think we need to get some description from the union, give them the opportunity to remind us what they do for us.
Well, we don't plan for bargaining, I'll say. We have a management team, and we don't have any input into who that is. When we did interest-based bargaining, Alderman Arnett and I were intimately involved because I brought interest-based bargaining to the city. We had never done anything like that and had to train everybody on how to bargain in a fashion where you're in it for the whole as opposed for your individual unit. And it worked, but it took us 13 months of bargaining. We started in 2011. It was in 2013 that we finally ratified all 4 contracts collectively. But it took a lot of work to get us there. And then after that, we didn't use it anymore. And that's our loss. But anyway, we should be having a meeting in September or October, talk about what we want on the bargaining table. You guys do it with your rank and file,
Right.
so that when the bargaining sessions begin, you already know what your people need. Our management team knows what they want to go for, but we need to be involved. Alderman Arnett, you and I will not be here, but hopefully Alderman Huntley will carry this message on to the rest of his colleagues to be involved, because it is our contract with our employees. And if we don't have a say in it, then we can't control whether it satisfies the employees or us as a deliberative body. So
Can I maybe ask our city attorney if he has any thoughts to share in response to that? If not, that's fine too.
No.
Okay. Man, a few words over there. Jamaica, anything else you'd add to us?
And like I said, I appreciate it. It was kind of weird getting this request because, like I said, we never had a request of this magnitude. So want to know what we need and why. Usually it's negotiations, and we're fighting for everything. So I'm grateful for this meeting.
Well, I want you to know.
Hopefully we'll see y'all again because we're ready to go into negotiations in November. So
Well, I want you to know that the Finance Committee wants to hear from all of the city staff. We want to hear from our directors. We want to hear from our rank and file. We think that's, I think, and I think I speak for the whole committee, that is the best way to develop a truly strong budget with input from everybody. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of that.
no problem. Thank you.
I'll call up our next presenter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Mr. Spriggs, president of Local 3406, City of Annapolis with the Utility Department.
Thank you. And Mr. Spriggs, I'll ask you the same question that I just did. You know, police and fire, it's a little bit obvious who they're representing, but could you describe to us in plain terms who
Well,
your
I
union
got-
represents?
I have utilities. I have, it's called Central Services now. What I got, Rex and Parks, and I have streets. All of them is under me.
Got it. Thank you.
What we're asking for is the career ladder. Our career lateral is like critical to us right now to bring us up to more speed of the things that's going on, because all the recognition is going downtown. All the positions downtown. Everything you see coming on the board downtown. Downtown is not doing the footwork that we're doing. Police department, fire department, all the recognition goes to them. We are the ones that make their job a whole lot easier than what it is. We're also asking for more vehicles, more equipment. As the city is growing, we need to go up to date with technology. Everything is like a touch of a button now. And to go out there and you're doing everything by hand, and you're like, well, what the is going? You're lost. It's like the city's not getting no smaller. Every day is a new development getting built. You got to manage this. You have to manage that. You have to keep up with this. Everything is going on the computer now, so we have to have the technology to keep up with today.
Thank you. Could I just ask you to be a little bit more specific on that and maybe break it down into two things? So when you're talking about more vehicles, what kinds of vehicles are you thinking about?
We need equipment.
Okay.
The equipment that we need is to keep us up, whether we're not contracting a lot of our stuff out. If you see it now, a lot of our big work is getting contracted out because we don't have the equipment to do it.
Right. And that's when you're talking about road repair, or when you're talking about
And
across
as a
the board?
whole,
Yeah. Okay.
it's not one specific thing that you point with as a whole.
Got it. And
It's the work that I see, the work that they're doing can stay in-house if we had the equipment
Mhm.
to do that work. But we don't. We ask for stuff, we're not getting it.
Interesting. Thank you. No, that's the kind of perspective that we wanted to hear here. Let's talk a little bit about technology. When you're saying that everything is computerized and your technology is not keeping up, can you give me any specific
It's-
examples?
Like, just for instance, we just got a camera truck. Okay, if you was to look into our budget and stuff like that, all that stuff was getting contracted out. So we had thousands of dollars getting thrown to the wayside when we could keep that in-house if we had the equipment to do the project. You have a contractor coming in and we're paying them $400 and $500, whatever the cost is. I'm just rough estimate guessing.
Sure.
Whatever the cost is to keep them down here for 8 hours. if we had that technology that they had, we could do the work ourselves.
Yeah.
If we had the manpower to do, the manpower in the
I'm really interested in this example. Can you tell me more? You said a camera truck?
Yeah, we just had a camera truck with it runs the lines and can see what's clogging the line up,
Oh,
and
cool. Okay.
it's like a little robot that goes on a camera.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember this is
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
city budget. Mr. Trudeau, you have something to add?
In the spirit of Mr. Lyles, no.
Okay, that's fine. I just saw you nodding your head over there.
No, I was going to add that last year we gave funding for a camera truck that he's referencing.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the additional specifics, and I appreciate both the specifics so we can kind of wrap our heads around it, but getting the general picture of what you guys see as a need is.
It's like we need more boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the city is getting more top heavy than bottom heavy. What I mean by that is more chiefs than Indians.
That's a turn of phrase. I appreciate it. Alderwoman Finlayson, do you have specific questions?
Not so much a specific question, but a similar comment to the one I made to Ms. Makel. Well, first of all, I do have a question. How much interaction do you have with the directors of the department? It's mostly public work, but
My director, don't a day or an hour go by without me having any kind of interaction with him. Like I could be sitting here right now. I need you to do every day, all day.
okay, so
Whether
there is no
it's, I don't mean to cut you off, whether it's in the office or out in the field, he's there.
So you're talking about Director Vogel?
Oh,
I'm talking about the director of the. I'm thinking about the person who.
I thought you was
creates-
talking about my director of utilities.
Okay, but you're in public work.
I mean utilities.
But doesn't utilities fall under public work?
It's
It does.
right, the
So-
whole broadband of that.
Right. And you've made some requests. And I'm trying to get to Director Vogel would be the one to put those requests into his budget.
I don't even, the only time I see the guy is maybe if I come down to here.
So it would be your supervisor who might be able to relay your needs to the director. So that's what I'm getting to. How does that request move up the ladder so that it becomes an item that's funded in the budget? And from what I hear, some of the things that you've mentioned are in the budget, such as the camera equipment. So there is a line of communication, it sounds like, even though it might not be the most direct one. So my comment overall is, again, the people you represent are the people, they're boots on the ground.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
doing the physical work of helping our city function well. And so there should be a time when you have an opportunity to share so that when you get to the bargaining table, you know what you want and you should know what the city needs. You know, you mentioned the fact that the city is growing, and it is. Are our departments growing? Because the needs are growing if the population is growing. So that's just something, again, for my colleagues on the dais. We need to be aware and accommodate for our growing population and, an aging population. You deal with the pipes under the ground who've been there for 100 years. We can't ignore the fact that the repair cost will increase because after 100 years, things do start to fail.
Right.
So anyway, that's my comment, that I just wanted to highlight the fact that you represent an ASME local also,
Yes, ma'am.
and those are the people who do the work. We're a service organization. We provide services to our 40,000 citizens, and you provide a significant service. So thank you for stepping up, Mr. Kroll.
You welcome.
Or is it Mr. Spriggs? I'm sorry. Call you Mr.
It's
Spriggs.
okay.
No, it's not. No, it's not ever.
Alderman
So, thank
Arnett,
you.
did you have questions?
Actually, I have a request of the Finance Committee because I think the only way we as elected officials can legitimately meet with union representation is within regard to finance. And Alderwoman Finlayson mentioned that in thinking about putting together the budget, we ought to have a meeting back in September, October, November. And we'll have to check with the Office of Law. I think the only auspice that we would be able to do that is through a Finance Committee hearing as the finance prepares for the budget. So I think this would be a very good thing to include in your report to the council at large. The other comment I have is I'm sorry that Alderman Gay, because he works for a living, can't be here, but I know this is a particular issue for him. And I was trying to think back to the class and comp study, and I don't really remember consideration of career ladders in the public works. And it could be that it's there, I just don't recall, but it does seem like that career ladders to me are a good thing because it gives both a recruit and a retention. It gives you a sense of where you come in and where you can go. And so to the extent that we want to keep good quality people coming to the city for employment and then keep them employed because they see where the head is, I'm a strong supporter of career ladders wherever we can do it. So those are not questions for you, sir, but comments because you're here, and thank you for that. That we need to explore this more fully.
Thank you for those comments, Alderman Arnett. I think the budget manager has something to say, and then I think we will wrap it up.
Career ladders are for DPW are included, and we also have that bucket of money in non-allocated to help facilitate those efforts. And if you recall, I feel like the DPW career ladders is what kicked off all of the classic comp study to begin with, as it, you all have been talking about that for a few years now.
Mr. Spriggs, any last words?
No.
Thank you so much for being here. I want you to know we appreciate your work and you are heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a comment about our police union. I got a note. I think they had somewhat of a misunderstanding about the purpose because their response, and obviously they're watching us, which is good, that they have no contact with the police chief, and so they would not be speaking. So for some reason, they thought that this had to do with, I'm not sure what, but I just, want you to know they did respond and saying they would not be.
I appreciate that. Well, if there are breakdowns in communications within that department, all the more reason to have them here. I will request our city council associate to follow up with our representative from the police union, and maybe we could have them first thing on Monday if it was just a miscommunication.
Okay.
But unless we have anything else on the agenda, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank
Meeting
you,
adjourned.
everybody.
Thank you so